Hello and welcome, Draft League fans. Let me go ahead and link the stream. Where would I do that from? Here. Copy link, and we're gonna link this in my Discord server, link down below if you want to, make sure you're notified for these streams, anything like that. At the streams roll, bang. So what are we doing today? We're looking at Garchomp. Now, Garchomp is a Pokemon that has basically been at the top of Draft League for ever since Draft League started, right? Gen 6 till current Gen SV. And in DPL, we saw Garchomp have one of the best multi-gen seasons that it's ever had, finishing top 6 in SV in terms of score. Dislike for Garchomp propaganda. I knew you'd be here to hate watch. Welcome, Keegan. Anyways, so Garchomp in SV finished 17-9, a very impressive showing, all things considered. Good enough for top 6 in the format. In Sword and Shield, also top 6 in terms of score, going a more modest 8-5. Kind of getting blown out of the water by Torn T, the other top tier Pokemon in this list. 12-1, but that's just, can't beat that really. If you look at Sun and Moon, this is probably the weakest. Well, definitely the weakest performance from Garchomp in any gen, but it's still top 20, right? Still pretty good. All things considered, top 20 is still quite far up there. Hold on. You can see that. Top 20. And then ORAS, right? This is where it finished top 2. Tied for top 2, right? 10-6. But it was drafted more often than Zapdos. Alright, so good enough for top 2, only behind Skarmory in terms of score. Not even the best ground dragon in Sun and Moon. Yo, it's only below what? Mega Garchomp? And Zygarde, I suppose, yeah. But if you look at it, Zygarde was 6-6, Garchomp was 6-5, but the two benches, unfortunately for Garchomp, the score formula does kind of punish benches quite a lot. See, Keegan is pushing his Garchomp agenda again. Yeah, it can happen. So what makes Garchomp so good in all of these generations? Why is it so timeless, right? As the title might suggest. So let's do a brief overview of what Garchomp does in each gen, generally speaking. As it should punish benches, especially if it's a first, second round pick. Yeah, it does. It's for a reason, right? But obviously it doesn't work out in Garchomp's favor here. That's why I say unfortunately. This was a bad season for the Garchomp agenda. I get it, bro. Okay, so in ORAS, what does Garchomp really do? This is probably the gen where it's best as a Scarfer. Like Scarf Chomp is probably ORAS is its best gen for that one particular set. What else does it really do? It can be Stealth Rocker. It can kind of annoy a lot of the physical attackers in the tier, such like a Mega Lopunny, right? A Helmet Garchomp is one of the best things you can have into a Mega Lopunny. Terrakion, I guess, a little bit. Terrakion 5-1, really nice record, but not exactly the most ubiquitous Pokemon in the tier. But just, Scarf Chomp is probably the #1 set, I'd say, in ORAS. It's, pretty powerful. Just the dual stab option is really powerful. And then, I think it was paired with Skarm on at least one team. There's one team that had Skarm, Chomp, and Zapdos on it, and that team did really well, so that's why these three mons are at the top of the score. The most what in the tier? It can handle most of the physical attackers in the tier, so that's what I was saying. If that's what you were talking about. Anyway, so Garchomp, as a Scarfer, it does revenge kill a lot of guys. Stuff like Mega Gardevoir, one of the, most important Pokemon to cover in ORAS, is slower than Garchomp. And versus sets like that, or teams with Mega Gardevoir, right? You'll see a lot of Life Orb Garchomp offensive sets, because that Life Orb EQ does sting. And if Mega Gardevoir is your fairy, you're probably not going to have a good switch into Outrage then. But yeah, generally more offensive sets tend to thrive in ORAS. Now in Sun and Moon, we see that, but even more so, because Garchomp is one of the best Z users in the tier. The frick is ubiquitous. quantity-wise, you're not seeing Terrakion drafted like 3 times out of 3. You're not seeing it every time. I swear, whenever everyone drafts Chomp in Gen 9, flips a switch in their brain that tells them to bring the worst sets known to man, and they go and say Chomp is washed now. Literally true. Literally true. At Keegan, right? Anyways. Sun and Moon. What does Garchomp gain? Z moves. And I have a few replays that I have gathered for the purpose of this stream. Word of the day. Yep. So Garchomp, a lot of the times in Sun and Moon, is going to be carrying Dragonium Z, Groundium Z. Those two are like the main ones because Swords Dance, with that big power boost, you're able to break through really important things in Sun and Moon, like the Uxies, the Rotom Washes, stuff like that, that kind of like blanket checks a lot of things in the tier, even like a Lando T, a Mew. These are Pokemon that can take a +2 hit, but not a +2 Z move. So it's like that sort of thing kind of shifts the, what am I trying to say here? The breakpoints of these defensive Pokemon. So like, you can see like Uxie drafted 3 times, and Uxie goes quite early in Sun and Moon. It's quite highly sought after. So being able to just muscle through that thing with a +2 Z outrage, pretty important. Mew is the same way, Zapdos the same way, get a Continental Crush going. Lando T, you have, you know, Devastating Drake. I mean, it's just a good Pokemon offensively in this tier. It also conveniently checks Koko reasonably well, right? HP Ice and Dazzling Gleam are going to be problems for it, but you can take one, and Koko is forced into bringing Shuka Berry or even a Balloon, and if Koko runs Balloon, it actually loses the electric terrain boost on its moves, so pretty cool. Hello Darkrai, how we doing? You love bringing Rock's lead Chomp into the Tusk Treads teams. Yeah, it's so good, it's so good. We actually have a Chomp versus a Tusk thing, I think, in these replays. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I didn't select that one. I didn't take every replay from this season. I just picked the ones where I thought Garchomp looked like it did something useful. And yeah, so we have 10 replays. What else in Sun and Moon? I mean, Garchomp does also synergize with some of the top threats, like the offensive Electrics, the Zeraors, and the Kokos of the world. You really don't mind having a Garchomp in that sort of team, so it's like pretty easy to fit on a lot of teams. That being said, you're not actually getting them, right? Because Garchomp's more of a round 1 pick. What were some of the Garchomp teams in Sun and Moon? Garchomp Mawile, right? We had one of these, we had a Gallade Garchomp, and where was the third Garchomp? Oh, they did actually get Zeraora Garchomp. So pretty cool stuff. Mega Garchomp needs to be drafted more, that's the GOAT. I know you're high on Mega Garchomp. How did Mega Garchomp do? Where was it here? I am blind. Where's Mega Garchomp? I know it was like reasonable. I can't see it. Man. Oh, here it is. Found it. Yes, Balio World Tour. Usum 3. Undefeated 2-0. Huge sample size. So Mega Garchomp must be the best Pokemon ever. And again, paired with the Koko, like I was saying. Then you have Skarm for hazards. You have Mew to do anything. I mean, it fits this kind of team, right? But anyways. Yeah, Z moves is the main differentiator for Sun and Moon Garchomp. And then you go to Swish, where it got Scale Shots. And this is a big deal. Well, 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 look at the 4th mon on that Balio team. Keldeo, yep. The GOAT. So in Swish, Garchomp got Scale Shot and instantly became one of the best Pokemon, if not the single best Pokemon. Yes, Toaster Gopher, that's the joke. Not gonna lie, I was very pleased with myself for that thumbnail. Anyways, Garchomp got Scale Shot, which is such a big deal for a Pokemon that, you know, at +2 is so strong. It's already over base 100 speed, so if you're able to Swords Dance and then KO something with a Scale Shot, it's one of the, you know, biggest threats in the tier. Yeah, static. I did say that. Alright. So, what does Garchomp do in Swish? Well, Swords Dance Scale Shot is the #1 threat in the tier, probably. Went right over your head. Yeah, it can happen. But, so, Garchomp he's pretty good. He also checks Victini, like, in general, which is a really nice bonus for that defensive profile. You have rocks. I mean, generally you can, you know, offensively check a lot of things. Not a whole lot hard walls you. You know, if you look at like the steel flyings, right, Corviknight, Skarm, these can both get like fire blasted, maybe Corv a little bit less so, but still. You also see something like Rocky Helmet Garchomp in the Kartana matchups. Yeah, one of the reasons why Weavile is so good in Swish is not only boots, but it also checks a lot of the top tiers, Garchomp, Torn. So, I mean, Weavile being around to stop it is kind of annoying, but Garchomp, there's not a whole lot outside of that that it really super fears. So it's just generally a good Pokemon. I wish I could pull up old replays, but Zeril has nuked a lot of them, unfortunately. But there was a little bit of a story time. So one time in DPL, we drafted Theodore Manny, one of the players that's like well known for their stall builds, like very, very bulky stuff in Swish. And he's been very consistent over the years with the win records of that sort of teams. And one time we drafted him and we got a Garchomp in Swish. And of course, being Theo, every single week was like max defense, Rocky Helmet, leftovers, that sort of Garchomp. And so like in the middle of the season, I think it was like week 3 or something, we're like, okay, what we're gonna do, okay, everyone knows Theo is running stall basically. And we've shown like Rocky Helmet Garchomp 2 weeks in a row. And so we're like, hey, what if we just brought offensive Garchomp? They're never gonna prep for it because it's Theo. And so we brought offensive Garchomp. It was like SD, Scale Shot, you know, the classic. And he just 6-0'd in like 10 turns. Like, I'm not even joking. It was like cinema. But yeah, Garchomp is just so potent if you are not like going well out of your way to check it. With Yachi for Slowbro. Yeah, it was Yachi, SD. Very good stuff. And that brings us to SV, the current gen, where Garchomp kind of takes on a different role most of the time now. That game was so funny, yeah. So Garchomp in SV is kind of more of a support Pokemon, believe it or not, because, you know, the option for spikes, rocks, like it got spikes this gen, which is a big deal, and then also a lot of the like popular physical attackers get ruined by Rocky Helmet Rough Skin. Look at something like Meowscarada even. Triple Axle, sure, it'll kill my Garchomp, but you're coming with me, right? And if you're predicting a U-turn or something, you can super punish that. You go for versus Palafin, right? Palafin right here. A Wave Crash does more to Palafin than it does to Garchomp, I'm pretty sure. Like, LOL. Yes, this was a great Torn T season for sure. Then you see something like Urshifu Rapid, basically forced to run pads or something like that. Urshifu Single, same kind of deal. Even Dragonite. I don't think I actually selected this replay for the examples, but there was a game where Garchomp switched into a Dragonite E-Speed, broke multiscale, and then knocked it out with a Scale Shot. So like, there's all sorts of things that you could do with Rough Skin that is like super valuable in this gen. And once had a SD normal gem double edged Cinder to Oko Garchomp. It took 76 in recoil. That is kind of fire, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, so what else can Garchomp do here? I mean, you can kind of compare it to Ting Lu in a way, where Ting Lu is obviously way bulkier, just like raw stats wise, but both of them kind of fulfill similar things defensively, where it's your fat ground type, it's going to check the things it's going to check, and it's going to get spikes up in the meantime. You have Whirlwind and Dragon Tail in terms of like phasing, a pretty strong Earthquake. And yeah, so Garchomp is just better at doing passive damage. Ting Lu, those Ruinations are a little bit of an advantage over Garchomp, and of course just being a little bit bulkier. It's funny how ORAS is like Garchomp's worst gen, and it's still crazy. Yeah, I think some people might say Sun and Moon would be the worst gen for it, but yeah. You think SV is its worst gen with Terra Band? I don't know, I feel like it's so easy to make a good SV Garchomp team. That being said, that's true for every gen. It's good everywhere, basically. Eject Pack Chomp is fun in SV. Get up Rocks, Draco, and Pivot. I think I saw a few replays of that as well, yeah. ORAS Fairies are very bad. Yeah, it's like Clefable and then big gap and then nothing. So, yeah. You loved Chomp when you had it. Yeah, it's just so versatile, I think. Are still matchups where you're going to find that offensive Garchomp just 6-0s. And so, while those matchups are a little bit rarer in SV, they do happen from time to time. Mega Guard? Yeah, yeah. I mean, Guard is not switching in on Earthquake. Anyways, that's kind of what Garchomp does in all the different gens. I mean, obviously it's draft, so it's all matchup specific. You can run any Garchomp set in any given week. No one's stopping you. But general trends, Garchomp tends to get quite bulky in SV, quite offensive in Swish and Sun and Moon, and then somewhere in between in ORAS. Maybe on the more offensive side. So yeah, like its role has kind of changed over the years. And that's like it makes it one of the more interesting Pokemon, in my opinion, in terms of like Draft League history. Pretty cool. Alright, let's move on to some of the replays that I picked. We're going to go Gen 6 to Gen 9 in that kind of order. Oh, I got a notification. Grimace just subscribed, thank you. Alright. Jay Scurf versus Rob Jr. So these players, obviously Rob Jr., if you're familiar with the Smogon side of things, you know he's kind of the GOAT. He's been playing draft for a very long time as well, so he's a good player. Respect him quite a lot. And here he's playing up against Jay Scurf, who, I mean, everyone here knows Jay Scurf, right? Notable top 5 player, a little bit memed sometimes, but yeah, that's my GOAT Scurf. Yeah. Didn't Jay Scurf get like first seed in the last year's draft champions, whatever it is? Draft League Championships, what it's called. It's like the big tournament that Smogon does overall. And he got like first seed in it through the qualifiers. Yeah. So, 2 good players. And we see a Garchomp in this team versus the Mega Gardevoir. And you look at this, offensively, Garchomp looks fantastic, right? The only ground resists are getting smacked by Dragon Claw or like Outrage. So, just dual stab is going to be more than enough. The Fairy type doesn't even have an Air Balloon option because it's Mega Guard. And so, if I remember correctly, this game, Jay Scurf is just playing around a win condition Garchomp. So what do we need to happen for Garchomp to just win? Well, we probably want the Noivern to be lured in. But other than that, you keep your HP for the Infernape. You can trade versus that, and then everything else you're faster than and do quite a lot of damage. So let's go ahead and see this one. Alright, we're going to lead Skarmory versus Infernape. Infernape switches, funny enough. Probably fearing like a Sturdy into Brave Bird. Rob is not willing to take that trade. He thinks the Infernape is a little bit more valuable than that. And we're going to see rocks go up immediately as the Rotom comes in. We see a Volt Switch. That does 80%, which is a lot. So this is a very fast Skarm. Probably dual hazard lead Custap, if I had to guess. What's up, Fizzle? How we doing? Skarmory forces out Infernape Tech. Yep, never before seen. So now dual hazards it up. And with lead Skarm, you know it's going to be Taunt, and it is faster than Empoleon, of course. So it blocks the Defog, and now Brave Bird last. Yeah, so that's just an offensive lead hazard Skarm. Goes down to a Scald, but crucially these rocks and spikes are up. Now Zapdos comes in, forces out the Empoleon into Nidoking on the Thunderbolt. Nice play from Rob. And now we see Nidoking is faster than Zapdos, but we're not sure if that's Scarf Nidoking or a very slow Zapdos at this point. 61. Really hard to tell this kind of damage without knowing at least one of the sets. Actually playing in an ORAS league with Scurf right now and playing Bud in playoffs likely. He's first seed and in your second. He didn't get chomped this time though. Yeah, he's a good player. For sure. It's nice to see an ORAS league still going on. That's pretty cool. Alright, so Zapdos is lefties. And then Nidoking switches out. So that makes me feel like Rob Jr. is Scarf, and now he's basically revealed that he's Scarf, so he's trying to cover a Starmie switch in here, which makes a lot of sense. And he's going to catch an Infernape as well with the Rotom Wash. So I guess that covers Starmie and Infernape. Really nice play from Rob. I like that a lot. Now forced out into the Zapdos as a Hydro Pump comes out. Does 36? Oh, and we miss a Hydro Pump. That's brutal for Rob. The Zapdos would have died. Anyways, Nidoking comes in, and it's Agility Zapdos. That was not on the bingo cards. Yeah, this was a robbery, I forgot. Yeah, unlucky. But it goes for a Thunderbolt, and it's actually Wakanberry, so this Empoleon is going to get the defog off. Pretty cool. But now this Zapdos is a +2 at 96% when it should have been dead to Hydro Pump. Unlucky, right? Guard comes in. Gonna be able to trade with this. 33%, looks like it's a 3-hit KO, but Hyper Voice well and truly is a 2-hit KO. So Gardevoir able to trade into the Zapdos. But now what? Now Trevenant comes in. Ooh. Hyper Voice does a lot, but Trick Room Trevenant, guys. Yeah, 33 is kind of crazy, huh? And now Noivern comes in, and Noivern is one of the Pokemon we need dead for our Garchomp. So Rock Slide comes out and we flinch the Noivern. Goat. Goat. Is this a Draft League game? Of course. Yes. Infernape goes down to 2 Shadow Claws. And now Noivern comes in. Gonna go for a Flamethrower, knock this out. At this point you can go Starmie, I think. Yeah, Starmie forces a KO. You see a U-turn, probably sack something, or you go Rotom Wash, I guess, that's fine. Yeah, Analytic Life Orb, Psychic comes out, does a lot of damage. We see a double to Noivern. Sacking it off, okay. So there, what's the idea here? So Rotom Wash comes in, and then doubles out into Noivern? Not really sure what the idea was there. Maybe didn't want to Volt Switch on a Garchomp. He was probably predicting Garchomp there, right? Yeah, because if you sack the Starmie to Volt Switch, then it's Infernape Garchomp left, and then Noivern would win. So that's actually a super aggressive stay-in from J-Scurf, right? Yeah, he predicted the Chomp to come in and doesn't want to just Hydro Pump. Would rather double to Noivern. It makes sense, right? Draco's just a KO. But J-Scurf reads through that, I guess, and stays in. Then sacks the Starmie, but the Noivern's dead now, so the threat isn't there. We see Scarf Nidoking able to do a little bit of chip to the Garchomp with that Earth Power, but now Rotom Wash comes in. It's actually Scarf Rotom as well, but Garchomp eats both of these. Hard Body Garchomp, able to clean up the endgame with those Dragon Claws. Alright. And that is game 1. Now you have another game up against my teammate Genius X, but this is Josh the Turtwig. So Joshua Watt, Ace Trainer Josh, all these names that he's had over the years. These are 2 of the best players in the game, honestly. So Josh, he's always been consistent in ORAS. He's basically an ORAS mainer, and he plays and he wins. That's pretty simple, right? This guy has plot armor out the ass, and every year he's always like super positive in record. Like I don't remember the last time Josh went negative in a team tour, which is like really saying something. Zing's custom avatars always go so hard. Yeah, he's got some cool ones. Joshua Watt might be the ORAS GOAT. He might be, honestly, if you look at all time. He's up there. And then Genius X, I mean, known top talent, very flexible player. Here he's slotting in ORAS, and we see a Garchomp. Now what does Garchomp do here? Well, you see something like a Cresselia, which could be pecking Ice Beam. You see a Crocodile, which could be Intimidate, Fizz Def. A Klefki could be Magnet Rise. There's a lot of things that could potentially stop the Garchomp. We'll see how Josh plays around these things. Lead Zapdos. Is this Chomp Z? No, because this is ORAS. Oh, I forgot to fix the dimensions. No! There we go. Yeah, Gen 6 draft. Yeah, we're gonna have 2 games of ORAS. This is the second one. 2 games of Sun and Moon, 2 games of Switch, and then 4 games of SV. That's the plan here. Anyways, Zapdos lead into Gallade. This gen it doesn't have Hurricane, so Gallade can just stay in and go for a Swords Dance. As Clefable comes in, now is this Magic Guard or Unaware? It is Magic Guard, so +2 Stone Edge is going to put this thing in range of, wait for it, Facade, of course, because why wouldn't it be Facade Stone Edge? Now it is going to get Pursuit Trapped by Sneasel. All is well though, because Empoleon can come in. I assume rocks are going up here. Yep, rocks do go up, and Zapdos comes in to immediately defog these away. If you'll notice, the Zapdos is pressure, which in ORAS it has to be pressure if you want to run defog. So keep that in mind if you're playing any ORAS versus Zapdos. Right, can just roost on this Empoleon as rocks go up again. Genius trying to bait a defog. Maybe, I guess every time he does this, he's fishing for a freeze. So this loop is like kind of favorable for Genius, yeah. And eventually you're going to have to Volt Switch out and these rocks are going to stay up. Actually really intelligent from Zing there. Now a Scald is pretty free. A burn on anything would be pretty catastrophic. And we get crit by Drain Punch. Nice, dude. Rocky Helmet Empoleon, so definitely would have lived that, but oh well, what can you do? Now Crook comes in, and it's also going to be Rocky Helmet, and go for Pursuit on this Jirachi. But it's going to be Weakness Policy Jirachi. Oh my god. Josh really does have everything. Drain Punch as the pivot to Torn comes out, and Heat Wave is going to finish off this Jirachi, so the Jirachi is eliminated one way or another, and that's really good. Now Blastoise comes in, but we don't really have a Blastoise switch in at this point, so a Sludge Wave for Chip. I mean, doesn't feel the greatest, but it's what you have to do. And now Klefki comes in to Calm Mind up. Water Pulse is doing a pretty sizable amount though, and no leftovers on this Klefki is going to go a long way. And no lefties because it's Rest Chesto. Right, fair enough. Now Water Pulse comes out as 32%. Do we see another Calm Mind? We do not. We start seeing a Dazzling Gleam. Doesn't KO the Blastoise though, unfortunately. So this Klefki is going to end up at 5%, and yeah, Garchomp's just going to come in. Now, could this possibly be Magnet Rise last? Not really, right? Rest, Calm Mind, Magnet Rise, Dazzling Gleam doesn't seem very likely into something like a Jirachi. You probably want HP Fire or something. Anyways, Crocodile comes in, gets the Intim, but Earthquake is still at 2-hit KO. So sacks the Klefki on a Swords Dance turn. Big play from Josh here. Now Crook comes in, and what do? We Swords Dance again. No fear. Knockoff comes out, but just gets rid of the Yachi Berry, and now you can just Earthquake the Crook, and now at +2, Bristelli comes in, takes rocks. But Garchomp is strong enough where +2 Crunch just KOs the Cress, which is kind of crazy, honestly, because Cress is so fat. Not only that, right, if you think about it, Cress in the current gen is actually less bulky than it was back in ORAS. Right, didn't it have that BST change somewhat recently? So this is the Cress with like 130 base defenses, right? So yeah, this Garchomp, quite a strong Pokemon, some might say. And yeah, did it get changed? I'm pretty sure it did, because Cress was so good in VGC for so many years. They're like, this guy's too good. Lost 10 to defenses, yeah. So it's like base 120 instead of base 130 now, I'm pretty sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's it. Anyways, we can move on to Sun and Moon, Gen 7. Alright. So here we have Undead on one side versus iPro on the other. I only correct people when they are right. That's a little bit weird, but okay. So these two players are some of the best Sun and Moon players in the world in terms of Draft League, right? Very consistent players. And yeah, it should be a good game. Now, what does Garchomp do in this particular matchup? I'm not too sure. Let's find out. It looks like it kind of outspeeds 4 Pokemon, right? Everything besides Thundy and Gallade. Obviously, Gallade can be packing Ice Punch, so probably don't want to be checking that thing. But Thunderous, HP Ice, not quite the strongest thing in the world. Honestly, you could be Yachi Berry Garchomp, and one of these Pokemon is going to hit you with an Ice move, and you can be able to take that, potentially knock it out with a +2 hit. That being said, you can also rock a Z move, right? Something like Feeny, Necrozma, I mean, even like Shuka Nidoqueen. These are things that are pretty common brings into Garchomp. And I forgot to loop my music, sorry. Here we go, we're so back. These are some really fat Pokemon that can really get busted open by a Z ground. And if you look at it, Z ground kind of covers everything, like, reasonably well. So it could be Groundium Z, it could just be Yachi Berry. There's a lot of options, right, for an SD set. But yeah, that's probably going to be what Garchomp is looking to do here. You could argue maybe a Scarf. It doesn't look too bad here, but Scarf Garchomp probably just going to get walled out by the things like Necrozma, Feeny, stuff like that. Alright, let's go ahead and look into the game. Diancie leads off into the Nidoqueen, and immediately we're going to stay regular form to get rocks up, reduce that damage from Earth Power, and now, judging that you're willing to stay in turn 1, get rocks up, and also judging that there is a Registeel and a Nidoqueen, this is most likely going to be Endeavor Diancie. That's just the set that makes the most sense here, and we're going to see that Endeavor into Registeel, really nice chip. And now we go hard Garchomp because we don't sack Pokemon for free out here. I see Garchomp hard body, it takes 19, and through the Shuka Berry, still KOs with Garchomp, KOs with Earthquake there. So nice stuff, already forcing a first KO. Now Thundurus comes in. If you're Yachi, you can stay in Stone Edge, but he goes hard Pex. Now, this is a crazy play, right? So we go hard Pex on Thundurus, predicting HP Ice, but he goes for a Nasty Plot. This is scary, right? iPro predicts that Undead is going to switch out the Toxapex into Zeraora. This is the play that he thinks is coming, right? It's like Zeraora or Garchomp maybe, so Flash Cannon is like reasonable chip into everything? I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I don't really agree with this Flash Cannon play, but he goes for it anyways, predicting a switch, and he's just going to get gunk shotted. But he gets the drop. This damage, by the way, 12% from +2, does reveal Assault Vest Toxapex. So now we're going to go hard Zeraora, but this time he goes for the Z move, Breakneck Blitz, and that's going to force a KO. Nice stuff. Now Pex comes in and takes 97 from +2 T-Bolt, knocks out the Thundurus. So this Thundurus did get really big value, right? KO'd the Zeraora and brought the Toxapex down to 3%, but the ground resist is now dead, which means Garchomp, if it is Z ground, whenever it comes out, is just a guaranteed KO with that click, which is always pretty powerful in endgames. If you could just guarantee a KO with your Z move, one of the best uses for it. Now Spiritomb comes in, reveals to be very bulky, and then doubles Diancie trying to catch like a Rocks or something, but iPro sees right through that, goes for an Earth Power, and now Garchomp comes in, does have that Tectonic Rage, and guarantees a KO into that Nidoqueen. Can't really switch into that. Now Gallade comes in, threatening an Ice Punch. We just have a Skarmory. iPro makes the really nice aggressive play, goes for a Swords Dance on the switch, and now knock off on a potential Rocky Helmet, which it does end up being. Do we live the Brave Bird? No, we do not. Alright, so Skarmory does its job, checks the Gallade. All you can really ask for from it. Now Feeny comes in, but we don't sack Pokemon for free out here. We have a Toxapex, and it's AV, that does 9%. And now what? Necrozma comes in on a gunk shot, just 34, so very offensive Pex. Now Spiritomb, one of the best Necrozma checks of all time, is able to come in on a Calm Mind with the fries in the bag Feeny, for real. Now a Foul Play is going to do 41%, but Iapapa Berry on the Necrozma means it is actually looking to come out ahead in this 1v1, but it is going to end up quite low. And yeah, so once it goes down, it looks like it's just going to be a Garchomp cleanup, right? Because you just go for an Earthquake. Feeny is forced to come in. Kind of hope you can avoid the 2-hit KO, but not quite able to proc the Iapapa Berry in that sequence. And then here, Undead kind of like scouts the Scarf Feeny, I believe, by going Skarmory, which is a fair play, right? Now you go hard back to Garchomp on the Autotomize, and Garchomp able to take this Photon Geyser, no problem. Yeah, 58%. Goes for an Earthquake, knocks it out, and here I think the Feeny has to be getting an Iapapa, right? No, it is Scarfini. So he just predicted the double to Pex. Alright, fair enough. But now obviously that Pex is just going to win. And you could see the pressure that, you know, this Z-Ground Garchomp was putting versus team. Really powerful Pokemon. Really well played by Undead as well. What's up, Amy? How we doing? Alright. Now we have another Undead replay, this time against Tidal. One of the newer players in the scene, but she's been doing pretty well on Balio World Tour. One of their best players record-wise, if I am remembering correctly. But anyways, this time Undead actually benched his Garchomp on this team, but Tidal is packing that Garchomp. So, what does Garchomp do in this matchup? Well, in this matchup, there's stuff like a Skarm, a Tangela, where you're probably not going to be able to break through with even with like a sword stance set. You'd have to be like Z Fire, maybe, which could do something here, of course, but it does feel a little bit, you know, tricky. Whereas if you look at the other side, what's the Zeraora check, right? You could say maybe Steelix, but if it's like Calm Mind Focus Blast Z, you're kind of just cooked. And then that would also pack HP Ice. And like, what are you supposed to do versus Zeraora then? So most likely into this team, it's going to be Scarf Garchomp. Or maybe like Yachi Berry to cover HP Ice Zeraora, but most likely Scarf. You want to maintain a little bit of pressure offensively. You outspeed stuff like the DNC as well. And you threaten a lot with EQ, right? An EQ endgame is like not the hardest thing to set up, right? You just need to get rid of Skarm Tangela, which, you know, maybe easier said than done, but we'll see. Tangela is going to lead off into the Steelix. We should probably be on the side of Garchomp, right? Switch sides real quick. So we see a Hazards exchange. Now a Smackdown Steelix into Skarm. But Toxapex is going to switch into Steelix Earthquake, no problem, 36%. Guys, Pex is broken. So gets the T-Spikes up as well, and that's going to be a big deal because there's no T-Spike Absorber. We see a Smackdown predicting the Skarm, but Toxapex just happy to stay in versus Steelix. Goes for a Surf. Surf is interesting because it shows that Undead is not trying to burn anything with Scald. He really wants the poison versus everything. So it could be T-Spikes plus Toxic. That's something that it could be. Alright, now we see a Hidden Power Ground, it looks like, into the Tangela. And here Toxics are exchanged. So that's step one to a Garchomp endgame. Getting some status on the Tangela. Pretty nice stuff. Now you see a Roost. Keep the Zapdos healthy as Diancie comes in. Probably to set rocks here. But the Zapdos is actually Z, so it goes for Gigavolt Havoc and brings the Diancie very low, down to 15%, one more rock switch in. So in exchange for rocks, the Diancie ends up low. Now Steelix comes in, and this was a weird play. Goes for a Protect. Trying to get some Poison Chip, I guess. Maybe you don't have Diamond Storm or anything, but definitely... Well, like, what are the other moves? Moonblast and Earth Power, so it probably just didn't have Diamond Storm then. Yeah, I guess. Anyways, Steelix gets a free switch in. Earth Power does quite a lot, 62%, but DNC does go down to an Earthquake. Maybe you could say, didn't really need to sack that, right? Steelix is like the opposite of a threat. You could have just gotten Toxapex like we saw before. You could have gone Tangela, could have gone Skarm. A lot of things that you could have done there. Could have saved the sack fodder, I think is probably correct. But now Steelix goes down to the Zeraora close combat. Pretty good stuff. And now Garchomp comes in, but we have good switches to the Garchomp, so not really the big deal. And our Zeraora's dead. Shout out to Undead, guys. So Scarf Garchomp does its job. Revenge goes to Zeraora. And that's pretty much it. I just thought that was too funny to not include in these replays. Question marks all around. Yep. Nice, dude. Just sack our win con. Game of the vid. Yep. And now basically Undead can only go for a defensive win condition of like, my Pokemon will never die, which is so much harder to pull off than like a Zeraora sweep. Wait, what was this for? These are all DPL games, so Draft Premier League, Team Tournament, really high quality players, really high quality prep, all that stuff. People are trying to win. Title too good? Yep. I don't even know what Undead was trying to do. He just threw the game. High quality plays for sure. Art of the deal. Yeah. Now Weavile comes in on the T-Spikes and the game ends because this is Lumberry Weavile. And it has Sword Stance, but it also has Taunt. So this Toxapex can't do anything, not even a Scald Burn. So yeah, now this Weavile is going to get plus 1 million and KO everything. Yeah, nice plus 6. Defensive game versus Exploud, it's so over. Yo, Exploud never even hit the field. Poor guy. Get taunted, yep. Skarm just freaking dies from 82. Shout out, and we forfeit the game. Alright. So that's the Sun and Moon games, right? We saw Scarf Garchomp, Revenge Killing Zeraora, which is like one of the best Pokemon in the format. Pretty cool. And then in the other game, we saw Z Ground breaking through some defensive stuff. Kind of the main things that it does in that gen. And now we have Gen 8. Sacked Wincon into Belly Drum Weavile Sweep is crazy. That is kind of crazy, yeah. Alright, so now we have 100p, otherwise known as Craig, versus Olivia. Now, obviously, in terms of a player matchup, this is a little bit skewed in Craig's favor, being one of the best Swish players of all time, right? One of the most consistent. And Olivia being much more, this is her first DPL. So, yeah. Hydrogen Bomb versus Coughing Baby, some might say. Some might say. And one side does have a Garchomp. So what does Garchomp try to do in a matchup like this? What are the options available, right? You see Coco, Melmetal, Rhyperior, a lot of things weak to EQ, right? And what's the EQ resist? Lottie, which is very scale shotable. So maybe the Silvally has to be something like Terra Fairy or something, physically defensive. I don't know. The Silvally gotta be something that checks Garchomp, right? Shout out to me going 0-3 in Swish Cup. Shout out to you. That's awesome. So what does Garchomp do here? Offensively, it's pretty good, but maybe some of these Pokemon like Blastoise, even Melmetal, right? Able to take quite a bit quite a bit from these hits. Forgive me, I got a little bit of a dry throat. Starmie in 2025. Yeah, that's one of the cool things about this season of Swish. We had Addison do the draft board, and she dropped a lot of the Pokemon that were like less usaged, and Starmie is one of those. So Starmie became very cheap, and thus was drafted quite a lot, and it's had a great season. Is Silvally good in this gen because of the multi-attack buff? Yes. Silvally is a fantastic Pokemon in this gen. Basically, it's a Terra Pokemon that you can bring in Gen 8. So, I mean, clearly that's a good Pokemon, right? It swept one game, so probably. Yeah, there is one game where the Silvally was what? It was Fairy type, and it just set up on a Pangoro and won the game immediately, like in the first 5 turns. That was a game of all time, but we're not here for that game, we're here for this one. And we're looking at Garchomp. So what does Garchomp do here? It could be Assault Vest for the Coco. Don't really need to set up to do big damage, so probably going to see more of a bulkier roll, because, you know, the other grass type here, Palisand, kind of gets rolled by Grass Knot. It's like base 120 power. So Coco is quite a big threat versus his team. Probably needs something for it, either Scarf or AV on the Chomp. Need plated boots. Silvally can have a type and boots for real. I mean, it can't have boots, it has to hold the item, unfortunately. Grass Terra Silvally would look nice here. It would, actually. That does look nice. Silvally stream? No, no, no. We're not doing a Silvally stream. Alright, let's look at the game. Coco leads off into Palisand. I guess this turn we see a Toxic, okay. So it's more of a defensive-ish Coco. Makes sense into something like Gyarados. You want to be able to take a +1 hit. Choice Band Explosion Silvally, yes, literally the best set. We see Balloon Silvally. Alright, fair enough. I was thinking it probably has to be something for Garchomp, and I guess that's what it is. I suppose, I don't know, man. I guess with the Balloon you do hard wall the Palisand stabs, so if it wasn't Toxic, then this will be able to set up for free on that, I guess. Sure, fair enough. Now Scizor comes in to bait a Flame Charge. You see Sword Stance, you know it's going to be Flame Charge. Every Silvally set runs that. So pivots to Garchomp to get the Rough Skin and the Toxic Chip. And now pivots Palisand, drawing the multi-attack. So here you can see 100p just dancing around this Silvally. And Palisand able to take this Psychic Fangs shore up. And it's like nothing even happened. Alright, now Blastoise comes in, forces out this Palisand Makes a double to Latios predicting what? As we see Grimmsnarl come out, so clearly predicting something else. What were we predicting? So Blastoise is in. Predicting Starmie to come in? I think we're predicting Starmie to come in by making this Latios double. Regardless, it doesn't work. Grimmsnarl has hit the field. Latios is forced out. We have a Melmetal, so it's not the end of the world, right? You can come in very freely on this Grimmsnarl. But now Scizor, like Scizor, one of the best Melmetal checks ever. So 100p, not really too worried about this. Looks to be pads on the Melmetal, as we see a knockoff as, yeah, protective pads is knocked off. I mean, every Scizor in every Melmetal matchup of all time has always been Rocky Helmet, so it's pretty easy to make that deduction, right? So U-turn into Garchomp. We know there's no Sugar Berry, and Earthquake is just a free KO. Latios is a little bit risky to go into. Olivia does not pull the trigger on that. And now this is crazy, right? Garchomp stays in on Latios. And what do we click? We click Toxic, predicting the Grimmsnarl. So 100p just completely outplays that situation there. And it's rewarded with a KO on the Latios. Kind of crazy. Now what? Blastoise comes in? A Bonchomp? We don't know yet. It could be. So Shell Smash comes out. Now Blastoise has leftovers, interesting enough. Not really sure why we have leftovers, but sure. Liquidation gonna knock out the Scizor with Helmet Chip. That's gonna bring it very low. Now Grimmsnarl comes in. It's actually Frisk, right? So there's no Pranks or T-Wave to fear. We see a Sucker Punch. But Olivia, aware of this, goes for the Shell Smash. Now, can she outplay all 8 Sucker Punches? Let's see. That's 2. Yeah, this is +6 Blastoise, so if 100p gets all these wrong, he's just cooked, right? Another Sucker Punch, another Shell Smash, okay. And we do attack into the Sucker Punch. Alright. And we actually have Power Whip for the Rhyperior, so really big chip on that. We see a Swords Dance, maybe ill-advised. Can Chomp live a regular Draco? It might be able to, but I think that's probably not worth it. I think we really just predicted the predictive Grimmsnarl. Coco is Roost, which makes sense with the Toxic set. It will just outlast this Grimmsnarl, no problem. But I think at this point we just sack our Grimmsnarl and get a free switch to Garchomp, and we just win the game, right? Surely. Spirit Break is now -1 million on Coco. Oh, we go Gyarados first. Interesting. And we just went with Gyarados instead. Sure. Fair enough, right? What is like the objective correct play from Blastoise there? Just spamming Smash? It's Sucker Mind Game, so there's no like objective correct play, right? You just have to win every single Sucker, and you have to guess basically which time he's not going to Sucker. So obviously that's like massively favoring 100p. Makes sense that he was able to get the Sucker off. The objective correct play is to just get it right, yeah. Basically, peer over the shoulder of your opponent and see what they click. Alright. And here we have another Coco matchup. Interesting. So we have 2 Coco matchups as the examples. So maybe this isn't the most representative of every Zapdos, or not, why don't I say Zapdos, it's on my screen. Every Garchomp, like, set in Swish. Thought it was sub when it revealed lefties. Yeah, it could have been. I guess if you were sub, you would have clicked it for sure, right? So, lefties, Shell Smash, Liquidation. What else do you need here? You need a move for Gyarados and Starmie. Whether that's a double edge or not, I'm not too sure. But then, you could fit sub if you really wanted to. But what do you actually sub versus? Like, is there a reason to bring sub in the matchup? You would sub maybe on Scizor? I don't know. Not really. Sub on Gyarados? It would kind of be sub on Gyarados, right? But clearly it's not sub because you would have clicked it into Sucker Punch, right? Surely you would have clicked it into Sucker Punch, so it can't be sub. But yeah. Anyways, next game. Again, we have 100p, this time against Paddox. Now, Paddox had a really fantastic season. I think he's like 6-1 record or something like that. Like, very dominant stuff. And he's using this Coco team. For the entire season, he's been using a Torn T team with Buzzwole and some other stuff. I think there's a Nidoking on there. I forget exactly the rest of the team, but he's been using that team for like the entire time. And now I believe this is the semifinals. And so they decided that the Coco teams had a better matchup, so they brought Coco. And he pulled this matchup with the Garchomp. So what does Garchomp do here? There's a Skarmory as like the main dual stab resist. But outside of that, I mean, a lot of the threats from Paddox are special, so you could see an AV Garchomp here as well. Definitely possible. I don't think you need SD for anything here. Like, if you're running SD Garchomp, you're just going to get checked by the Skarm and the Swampert, and you're still going to get revenge killed by something like maybe a Scarf Blacephalon. You know, will outspeed regardless of a scale shot boost. Holy, you were behind. Yeah, when you talk about Mega Diancie for, oh my god. Tornti, Feeny, Rachi, Feeny. Oh, he has 2 Feenies? That's why he was winning so much. Damn. Imagine you go through the whole game, you weaken the Feeny, and they just have another Feeny. That's kind of crazy, huh? Anyways, Garchomp here. Let's see the game. Alright, Starmie leads off into Blacephalon, switches out immediately, and we see Starmie switches first. So unless that is a Scarf Starmie, we know the Blacephalon's not Scarf. Nihilego comes out, goes for Rocks in exchange for Psyshock on the Pyapa Berry. Pretty good trade. Now Zapdos comes in, it is leftovers. So Light Screen comes out, interesting enough. Sludge Bomb goes for a Fish on the Poison, but unable to get it. Rachi Healing Wish into the Feeny, lock in L5. Hey, that's what it did versus Scrappy 10. Literally. So eventually you're going to get poisoned. Yeah, Zapdos does get poisoned. But with this pressure, it might still be able to PV stall. I'm not too sure. Psyshock does 14. LOL. Yeah, is this AV Slowking? Ooh, big crit. I say big crit, it doesn't matter. We're just roosting to full. This just means you get Hydreigon in on a non-light screen turn, and the Zapdos doesn't heal all the way to full. Actually, a nice crit there. Now Grimmsnarl, the obvious switch in, but Paddox makes the aggressive play, Flash Cannons that on the switch. Really fantastic stuff, and as a Dark type, you're immune to Prankster T-Wave, so no fear, you can just stay and click it again. Starmie comes in, though, and doubles to Zapdos on the Swampert. Okay, maybe not what 100p was expecting, but it's Scarf Swampert, guys. It is Scarf Swampert. A U-turn comes out. Now Zapdos is very low, but Hydreigon also quite low, and we see a Meteor Beam from the Starmie come out. Knocks out the Hydreigon. Now G-King comes in. If this is Psyshock, this is going to do a lot of damage, but I guess it's not Psyshock, just goes hard as Nidalego. And now doubles to Grimmsnarl on the Swampert. Not really what you wanted to see there. Goes hard into Gyarados now as the flip turn comes out into Coco. Kind of in the vortex here, but rocks are up, so it's not the end of the world. Okay, Electric Seed Coco kind of indicates we're going to set up here with Calm Mind. Yep. And now a Light Screen comes out, but we're just going to Calm Mind again. You can just go for it again, no? I guess Spirit Break would be annoying, right? 37, by the way. 37's crazy, no? So the +2 and the Light Screen do cancel out, so it's basically a neutral Coco. But 37? So this is a very bulky Garchomp. Definitely AV, which into a Blacephalon Coco matchup makes a lot of sense, right? But yeah, that does nothing. Earthquake's gonna Scarm, no problem here. We have Fire Blast, but unfortunately we do miss. And Defog, both gonna get rid of the screens and the rocks. Screens were gone the next turn anyways, but gets rid of the rocks. Pert comes in, goes for the Scarf Ice Punch, but Craig smartly scouts that, goes Starmie, and then double Zapdos trying to heal it up. But Paddox makes the play. Ice Punches the double. Really nice stuff. But now, I mean, you're rewarded with a KO, but now Gyarados can set up. Do we get to the part where the drunk player not on DUI click the drunk player move? We're right there, believe it or not. We're at that turn. So Gyarados goes for the Dragon Dance as Scarm comes in. Oh! W reaction. Yep. And we're gonna see this Gyarados is taunt into the Scarm. So no Whirlwind, no Toxic, no nothing. But it's Mental Herb Skarmory. But we misclicked Defog. Poor guy, dude. Poor guy. Because another taunt is coming. And now Swampert is going to live this waterfall, but Stone Edge just 54 somehow. In semifinals, right? Was it finals or semifinals? No, this was finals, right? Yeah, finals for sure. No, I was wrong. So Blacephalon comes out, but +1 Gyarados is going to be faster. But it's Focus Sash. So saves the game by going for a Will-O-Wisp, but I don't know if that's even enough. I see Skarmory come in here on the waterfall, does 20. But Mental Herb, you only really run Mental Herb if you're like 0 attacks on your Skarm. So Defog, Roost, Whirlwind, maybe a Hazard. That's what I'm thinking. Here he makes the really smart play going G-King on the taunt. I like that play a lot. Now Waterfall is 37. We go for Psyshock. Easily 2 KOs. Easily. Another Waterfall, and we get flinched. No! Poor dude. And now doesn't even try to get the regen back, which probably should have done, right? Now Skarm comes in, but now Craig, he's in such a commanding position where he doesn't even need to worry about anything. Just goes for a Waterfall just in case it's Brave Bird last. Because the game's done at this point. Garchomp wins the game. Coco comes in. We already saw this damage, 36. Get to Earthquake, and now what? Skarm comes in and dies to Fire Blast. Yeah, it just forfeits. The Garchomp able to check the Coco quite well. Not big money moves. No regen farm. Yeah. Unfortunate. And now we can move on to SV, where I have 4 replays to show you. 4. Alright. This first one is going to be Zooch on the side with the Hydrapple, which, by the way, they dropped a Raging Bolt for. Congratulations. And on the other side, we have Agency's Own, which was one of the best mid-season pickups in the tournament. Obviously not the greatest mid-season pickup, because that is very clearly reserved for Agent Flame, but Agency had a great season nevertheless. And now what does Garchomp do in this game? I actually don't remember. There's a few options, right? A Sword Stance set looks pretty powerful. And none of the fast Pokemon can really switch in on an Earthquake. So there is that option. You see a Hydrapple. So maybe you can break through Hydrapple. I'm not too sure. Like +2 is still gonna bounce off. But maybe it's like the wrong Terra type. Maybe it's like Terra Electric for Torn. Then you can really threaten this team. But why would you be Terra Electric for Torn when you have a whole ass Zapdos? I'm just talking about out my ass here. Let's go ahead and see what the Garchomp does. It could be Rocky Helmet. Kind of check the Infernape, the Iron Head Jirachi, the Ursaluna. Seems pretty reasonable. The Terra types, we see Poison Torn And we actually do see electric Hydrapple. Why? I don't get it. Anyways, U-turn immediately from Jirachi reveals slower than the Ogerpon, so no Scarf. Greninja comes in, and Torn looks to be AV because we're just switching it hard on an Ice Beam. 46! Brother. How fat is this Torn? This is like 700 SPDF EVs, Assault Vest. Bro. Is this Adamant Greninja? See a T-Spike go up, but the Terra Poison is clicked, so we're able to absorb the T-Spikes no problem. Goes Metagross just to double back to Torn, most obvious play of all time. Goes Zapdos to punish it, but Terra Poison Sledge Bombs, I mean, we're playing around with poison chances every time Zapdos comes in. Non-Terra Grand moment, so true. And now we see Garchomp get the hazards up, we see Rocks up, Spike up, and we have Stone Edge to pressure this Zapdos. Alright, fair enough. Citrus Berry able to take 3 Hurricanes, potentially, based on rolls. But now we've basically forced a Roost here, allows us to get a free Ogerpon switch. So Garchomp is pretty low, but the Rocks are up. Hydrapple comes in as not Boots, as another Spike goes up. And these hazards are going to go a long way. See the Terra Electric, but knocks off the Shuka Berry. So now it is actually threatened by Garchomp. The last layer goes up. And an Encore. So something's going to have to switch into this Ogerpon. You can recover a few times to force the Ogerpon to click a Encore again. That's a potential play you could do, which looks like he's doing. Encore ends, he's going to switch this turn. Most obvious turn of all time, but HSC doesn't want to risk anything. Just goes for the Encore. If you switch, you're switching on hazards. Who cares? Jirachi comes in and goes for a Trick Room with Culpa Berry. Pretty cool stuff. And gets Rocks up, so at least there's something going Zooch's way now. Ursaluna comes in, takes big hazards on Rotom, gets tricked to Choice Scarf, takes away the Flame Orb. Okay, sure. And a Reflect goes up, so Rotom basically dead, but Ogerpon is literally dead to hazard, so you'd rather sack that. Now Prim comes in with the Trick Room gone. Jirachi comes in, that's dead to any hit. Even a flip turn, right? Now Torn comes in. The Hydrapple, but this is like Super SPDF AV, so you're not really fearing Hydrapple at all. You can fish for Sludge Bomb poisons. Just keep going fishing. Cast your line. Get a poison. Thoughts? We get a poison. Hello? Hello? A crit. No poison. Dude, this game was so crazy. Because there's like no 30% chances ever procced in it. Covert Cloak? Yeah. Something like that. Rotom gets sacked off to the Zapdos. Metagross comes in. What's Metagross doing to his Zapdos? We're about to find out. Goes for an Ice Punch. And gets staticked. So finally a 30% does proc. But Zapdos can just roost on this. No problem. Where did our Hydrapple go? He went away. Look at this. Sludge Bomb, Discharge. No Para, no Poison, no nothing. Dude. Kind of ridiculous, right? How am I still so behind? I don't know, man. That's on you. Another Sludge Bomb. Another Roost. Now finally the Garchomp comes in. But Zapdos heals up all the way to full. Goes for a Stone Edge. There's only 2 Roosts left. And, you know, very successfully dodging the Hurricane. So Garchomp has 252 evasion EVs. Gets a crit on the Zapdos. And that's the last Roost. So now you have to hit a Hurricane. And we miss a Hurricane. So Garchomp, he's the GOAT for that. Let's be real. And now Ursaluna comes in. But we can just get a little bit of chip with Earthquake. All good. Rocky, or not Rocky Helmet, because I was going to say Rough Skin can knock it out, but obviously Earthquake goes through that. Torn knocks out this thing with a knockoff. Now Infernape comes in. This is Scarf. It's going to get... Actually, it's probably faster anyways, right? Because that Torn took so little damage. It's probably just no speed. Metagross goes down to the Flare Blitz, but now Primarina comes in. And you can just Moonblast. And the game's over. Right? Moonblast, Draining Kiss, whichever one you have. There we go. And Infernape is in Blaze range, but Primarina is at 76. Goes for a Gunk Shot. Not able to get it done. I think that was Choice Infernape if I'm not wrong. Like that was confirmed after the game. I could be making that up, but I'm pretty sure he said something about that. So, anyways. Now we have another Agency Zone game, but this time it's a Garchomp Mirror. Wow, double the Garchomp. Swag. So this time up against Panda, who, by the way, Panda has completed the feat of winning the DFL, the DCL, and DPL back to back to back, and World Cup, right? Actually, no, he didn't win DFL, but he won the major tours, right? World Cup, DCL, DPL. And he was finals in DFL as a captain, not playing. So, a pretty good resume, all things considered. But Agency Zone, he's on a mission here. Who won all of those? Panda did. He was on Infernal Armory when we won DCL last year. And he was on Team Canada for World Cup. And they had like a Giga Super team, so they won. And then this DPL, he was on Drafting Under the Influence. Yep. The GOAT. Alright, so now we see Garchomp lead, Terra Water Urshifu, Terra Fairy Pecharunt, and then Terra Dark Torn. They're Poison Manabuzz. Alright, cool. Immediate Scale Shot into lead Ogerpon is going to limit this to one Spike. The Life Orb Garchomp, by the way. So one crucial thing about Life Orb Garchomp is that, okay, it's not guaranteed versus Manabuzz, but you have a really nice roll on Stone Edge to 2-hit KO. So 49, I'm pretty sure that's like a min roll, so very willing to go for it again. But Agency pivots around, but obviously is eventually going to sack the Manabuzz. Torn comes out, it is Terra Dark. Goes for Stone Edge to, you know, force the Terra, and gets crit by Dark Pulse. I don't think that mattered. So, pretty good value off of a lead Garchomp, right? Limits it to one Spike, gets a KO and chip on two guys. What more you can really ask for, right? Not only that, the KO is on Manabuzz, which is one of the Pokemon that is like pretty annoying for Panda's team. Like Pecharunt, Urshifu, and Darkrai, even Mew. All of them really hate Manabuzz being around, so getting rid of that, a very high value target. And we're just going to kind of breeze through the rest of this game. I'm not really going to pause it or anything, because Garchomp has already done its piece. Alright, Mew goes down. Pecharunt comes in, most obvious Terra of all time. There's the fairy. But it looks to be Scarf Metagross, or at least very fast. So, Proxo weakness policy goes down to Shadow Ball, but this Pecharunt is now in range of Ivy Cudgel. Now Darkrai comes out. Primarina is low, so Darkrai is going to force a KO here. Looks to be Assault Vest Prim. Ice Beam doing 7. Surely that's Assault Vest. Scouts Custap? Is that not AV? 7? I have a hard time believing that's not AV. I guess he's scouting for Custap. I don't know. Or he just wanted to set up Corviknight, I guess. Maybe that's what he wanted to do. Primarina's setup fodder for Corv. Regardless, he gets the setup he wanted anyways, as Torn Heat Waves into weakness policy. But now Garchomp comes in, threatening the Rough Skin, but Panda, one step ahead, goes for the Roost. Alright. We have a game on our hands. We go for a Bulk Up, but the Garchomp saves the day with a Dragon Tail. Oh my god. And now what? Gets a nice Earthquake Chip on the Urshifu. Do we see pads? No pads. So the Rocky Helmet gonna bring it very low. Now Corv comes in. On an Earthquake. This guy's ass. And now Rocks go up. So the Urshifu's dead to hazards. Now Flamethrower on the Corv. A little bit of a nonsense play. But you do have Dragon Tail to prevent all this bulk up stuff. Has to be last Mon Corviknight to beat the Garchomp. And I think we're going to find ways to position ourselves where that never happens. Yeah, Garchomp is going to get sacked off here. And now Torn basically just wins the game, right? Because you can Heat Wave. That actually kills Darkrai, is crazy. Corviknight comes out and Heat Wave is going to do more than enough. Yeah, 61 just freaking dies. So yeah, both Garchomps actually did quite big work here. So a nice replay to show for the purpose of this stream. Oh, spoiler. Oopsies. So this is a replay from Agent Flame, who had a perfect season as a mid-season pickup. Went, what, 8-0? 7-0, 8-0, one of those, as a mid-season pickup, which is truly insane. She played in every tiebreak for every playoff series that went... I mean, every playoff series went to tiebreak, and then she won every tiebreak game. So, yeah, kind of crazy. Up against Slick Panther, going for a smoke. This guy has been around for a long time. Really respectable player. And he's using this like Aloe Meowscarada into Chi-Yu kind of thing. We kind of covered this team quite extensively in the past few videos with like featuring Aloe and stuff. But yeah, Agent Flame, she has the Garchomp. And what does Garchomp do here? Wait, is this the game I'm thinking of? Let's find out. We see Fairy on the Chi-Yu. And yeah, Mew comes out, goes for a T-Spike. But if I remember correctly, this is like 17,000 boots mons, so the T-Spike ends up not making a single difference in the entire world. Right, Darkrai comes out on the double, but yeah, boots Iron Hands. Gets Hypnosised. Try to see if this is the replay I'm thinking about with the Garchomp, because this is like really tragic if it is. Immediate overheat into the Mew. Big chip, but T-Wave comes out. Really valuable T-Wave here, because Chi was the main progress maker for this team. So, yeah. Okay, boots Meowscarada, but Pecharunt able to switch in on Meowscarada all day long. We see a Spike go up and knock off the boots. Oh, knock off the Scarf, excuse me. Okay, Scarf Pecharunt has hit the building. Alright, Shadow Ball, and we're just going to trade here, I guess, with the treads. Sure, fair enough. Meowscarada comes in, is going to knock it out with the knockoff. Because the previous knockoff was not stab boosted thanks to Protean. This time it is, so able to knock it out. Darkrai comes in. Now what? Uxie comes in on the knockoff. And this is Scarf as well, so a lot of goofy Scarfers in this game. Now what is Garchomp going to do here? If you look at this endgame, right? I mean, Garchomp looks good. It only has to worry about Alomomola. And now Garchomp comes in. Aloe comes in. And we double edge into an Alomomola for 34%. Okay, yeah. This is the replay I was thinking of. Okay. Huge chip, some might say. Very bigly. And we can just flip turn on that. So, yeah. I think I did not intend to keep this in the video as a Garchomp feature, because we're just thudding into Aloe, right? This time clicks Earthquake, 42%. But Uxie able to pivot in on that because it is Choice Band, I believe. Now doubles back to Garchomp on the Meowscarada, or like on the U-turn, alright, to knock it out with Rough Skin. Cool. And now Urshifu comes in and wins the game, right? Yeah, because you're behind screens. Flipton does a crisp 4%. Your Terra Poison for the Iron Hands. Doesn't even matter because it just dies. But yeah, Terra Poison and Chi-Yu being paired is a big deal here. Aloe has to come in, but another Swords Dance gets clicked. On flip turn, and now you have to live the Meowscarada hit. But Urshifu has base 100 defense, and it's good for it. Lives that, goes for a Drain Punch, and that's going to be the game. Aqua Jet just in case. And yeah, Drain Punch twice here. Bang bang. And shout out to Garchomp for carrying that game, that was awesome. My bad, guys. I don't think I intended to include that one, but here we are. I have one more replay to show you guys, and this is going to be Garchomp. This is a good game to show Garchomp in. This is another undead replay. We've had so many undead replays. The third one. This time he's slotting SV versus Agent Flame. So this one is actually quite fresh in my head. This was, I believe, the finals, right? So yeah, Agent Flame's team is going to be SD Urshifu with Terra Flying. Going to be a Taunt DD Mew. Pretty good stuff. And then this Garchomp is mainly here as a defensive resource into stuff like the Iron Moth, the Quillfish, the Sinistra. You're able to Dragon Tail a lot of these guys out, make them step on hazards a lot of times, set up a spike, set up rocks even. That sort of Garchomp is really powerful in a matchup like this. Something where, you know, two of these Pokemon are going to be, you know, holding Eviolite. So the number of boots options is quite low. So something like a Hazard Garchomp does have a really nice matchup here. Now Darkrai leads off into the Roaring Moon, but forces it out with the threat of like Will-O-Wisp, and actually ends up T-waving the Iron Moth, who goes for a Toxic into the Petrarunt. Now we see a double into Garchomp, catching the Quillfish, and this is going to get rewarded with a Hazard turn, right? Yeah, Spike goes up. And now Piloswine's in, rocks are going up, so Hazard's at least traded. But now this is the opportunity to go Corviknight and get both screens up. Undead went for an Earthquake here, almost certainly expecting a U-turn, going for the slow Earthquake on whatever wants to come in, which nothing wants to take an Earthquake, so I get the play. Just doesn't work out. Now dual screens do go up as Quillfish comes in to set a Spike, so Agent Flame playing at a Hazard disadvantage now. And goes for a Dragon Tail, gonna unfortunately miss, but just gonna click it again as Sinistra comes in and gets forced into the Roaring Moon, so spikes. And with the Reflect, you're not really fearing an Outrage at this range of HP, so you can just go for another Dragon Tail if the Roaring Moon wants to stay in an Outrage. It's a good trade for you. Another Dragon Tail on Sinistra. And let me go ahead and point out that this Sinistra is like one of the only things stopping this Urshifu. So bringing this thing very low, it's really valuable for these win conditions. Like stepping on spikes, getting Dragon Tailed, back into Roaring Moon, and now one turn of Reflect, but now we're actually in range of Outrage. But that's fine, because now you have a guaranteed Corviknight in and revenge kill this Roaring Moon. This Roaring Moon is guaranteed dead. So Garchomp literally did its job. It got a Spike, it weakened the Sinistra through Dragon Tails, it weakened the Roaring Moon down in range of Brave Bird. From a defensive Mon, that's a masterclass, some might say. And that's going to set up this endgame in such a way where, as long as you can prevent the Sinistra from just healing up for free, it's a pretty simple endgame, right? We see a taunt as Brave Bird comes out, and Corv is going to go down to recoil this turn. So, goes down to Brave Bird recoil, and now we have plenty of screens turns to do our thing. DD Mew comes in, go for a taunt to prevent like Toxic or anything. Nice stuff. But now we can just DD on this Piloswine behind Reflect. This Earthquake is doing what? 17%? Yeah. Go ahead and get you another. Quillfish comes in on the Spike stack, but another Dragon Dance is clicked. And now +2 Mew, there's nothing that can really stop it. Maybe like a Chople, Roar, Empoleon, but Taunt covers that. And now Drain Punch. Knock this out. Bring back all that HP, and Mew's gonna sweep the game, thanks to the setup done by that Garchomp. This was a really masterfully played game, I'm not gonna lie. This is one of the games that I actually went over with D-Ray a few nights ago, because, you know, I was showing him like what an example of a really good game plan is, and this is like probably the clearest example that I could think of like, okay, our game plan is this DD Mew and SD Urshifu, either one can win. What are we going to do to make that happen? We're going to use Spikes, Dragon Tail, Garchomp. We're going to spread so much chip around this team that it becomes inevitable for this Mew to win. So, really nice stuff. This honestly might be my favorite played game in terms of like how Agent Flame prepped and played this. I thought it was so simple and so effective. It was really great to watch. Anyways, that's going to be all the replays I had to show you. And shout out to Garchomp. So yeah, I think I'm pretty much done with the stream. If you want to check out my videos and streams, all that, go ahead and check out my Discord server, link down below. It's where I link everything for these stuff. If you want to catch this live, if you want to like the stream, it helps out the VOD in the algorithm, all that stuff. So if you want to do that, I'd appreciate it. Nothing really else to say. There's the DCL auction happening this Sunday morning, I believe. So that's going to be a fun time. I'm captaining that with Aster J. The Infernal Armory is making an attempt to defend our title in that tournament because we won the previous installment. So we have a Ceruledge custom avatar. We might be going for an Armor Rouge one. Who's to say? I don't know. Well, that's going to be a fun time. Plenty of content planned for DCL. I think tomorrow I'm going to be recording with TJ on his channel. And I think Rai is also joining. We're going to do an ORAS overview kind of thing. He's been doing that in all of the gens. So that's going to be out in a few days. If you're interested in all in that, go ahead and check out TJ Boat. He's going to do some stuff like that. He's also planning on doing DCL content. So if you like my content, you'll probably like his. And he's just starting out, so some support over there would be appreciated. Other than that, I don't think I have anything else to really say or plug. So that's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.